In a broad sense, right livelihood is about maintaining a balance between our income and expenses whilst working and living in a way that keeps us out of trouble. When we spend too much in our monetary system, nearly everything in our life begins to decline, including our mental health. Contrary to this, the Buddha considered not spending enough on necessities to be miserliness. The Buddha had a reasonable perspective on economics that involved honest dealings, legal trade, ethical trade, and peace amongst people. Specifically, Buddhism advises against engaging in 5 specific types of businesses. One is not to trade weapons due to the third-party karmic liability that weapon factory employees carry, as well as the karma that private weapon traders accrue in this occupation. Exploitative practices such as human slavery, trafficking, pornography, and prostitution should not be carried out because of the immense karma and suffering they create. Trading meat is discouraged because this involves killing animals who, more often than not, are forced to suffer throughout their lives living in poor and unsanitary farms or shelters. Trading intoxicants and poisons is also discouraged. Intoxicants such as alcohol primarily inhibit one's ability to be mindful. The Buddha never endorsed the consumption of alcohol or other intoxicants. Bhikkhu Bodhi had once brought up the controversy about this precept because of how popular it became for modern Europeans to have a glass of wine with dinner every evening, without the intention or consequence of getting intoxicated. He speculated that during the Buddha's time, the trading and consumption of toxicants may have been similar to illegal drug trading, in which the very aim of selling and consuming alcohol was to get drunk. Interestingly, the Buddha also spoke on the application of right livelihood for monastics, which may sound redundant since many of us assume that living as a monk in a monastery automatically provides one with the right livelihood. He could have simply explained that apart from being a monastic, everything else qualifies as wrong livelihood. But instead, he provides an extensive list in the Brahmajala Sutta of various livelihoods deemed inappropriate for monastics. The reason behind this is intriguing because it suggests that monastics were engaged in surprisingly diverse enterprises, whether for financial gain or personal interest. Although lengthy and not entirely worth reading in its entirety, encompasses practices like magic, including casting spells, palmistry, prophecy, demonology, and what we might consider today as alternative medicine or quackery. He categorized all of these practices and occupations as debased arts. The implication is that monastics of that time were likely either earning extra income on the side or accumulating personal prestige amongst lay people. The question arises as to why these arts were considered debased. It could have been to a certain extent because any pursuit by monastics that was not conducive to attaining enlightenment was considered useless and unrelated to spirituality. Additionally, some of these practices performed by lay people may have been fraudulent enterprises. The Buddha didn't specify why he discouraged the practice of many esoteric arts. As an awakened being, he, of course, understood that magic and powers are a real phenomenon. Nonetheless, early texts convey a distinct sense that the Buddha was skeptical about many practices. This skepticism might lead us to think that these practices are the ones traditionally labeled as wrong livelihoods to be avoided. There are 2 other occupations that the Buddha was reluctant to talk about, but would explain if asked 3 times. These were the military and acting. He would eventually disclose that individuals involved with these livelihoods were likely to earn unfavorable rebirths. A couple problems with being involved in the military are that due to the regular training soldiers receive, they may develop aggression and hatred in their psyche and be more compelled to harm others on a regular basis. The other serious problem soldiers face is the karma that arises from killing enemy soldiers at war. Since the Buddha understood that even performing one's job as a soldier and occasionally killing men when at war would not exempt a soldier from the karma of murder. The Buddha's relationship with the military carried some tension initially, because historical records show that in the early Sangha, he had ordained soldiers, which caused some tension with the kingships in the towns, because they had lost members of their military through ordination. It seemed that those who wished to avoid service could simply turn to the Buddha and request and receive ordination. Later on, the Buddha established a rule prohibiting ordination as a monk for individuals in the military. This decision was probably made to assure the kings in the region that the military force would remain secure for their own use, alleviating concerns about losing members to monastic life. As for acting as a vocation, this is a bit complicated as well. According to the Buddha, engaging in acting is fundamentally considered wrong livelihood because it fosters the cultivation of certain detrimental emotions. It encourages the development of passion, ill will, hatred, anger, and various forms of delusion, especially in the context of comedic performances. Interestingly, the Buddha's perspective aligns with certain aspects of the Western philosopher Plato, his view on fictional poems and plays. In both cases, the argument revolves around the idea that these forms of artistic expression are not conducive to the attainment of wisdom or the benefit of others.